In the fall of 1974, President Gerald R. Ford signed into law the Employee Retirement Income Security Act. This is commonly known by its acronym ERISA. ERISA established some minimum standards for pension plans in private industry. In short, it outlined important disclosure rules and standards of conduct for planned fiduciaries. A few short years later, in 1978, Congress introduced a provision in a specific section of the Internal Revenue Code that offered taxpayers breaks on deferred income. The section of the code was 401k. Interestingly enough, it was 2 years later that a benefits consultant realized that the code could be used to create an easy and tax-friendly vehicle for employees to save for retirement. The consultant introduced it to one of his clients, who promptly passed at the idea. But the 401k was truly born that day and has grown in popularity from that point forward. In fact, many would agree that the 401k was a catalyst for the stock market boom of the 80s and 90s. The birth of the 401k was truly a significant milestone in American history. It marked the steady demise of the traditional defined benefit pension. Business owners loved the idea of having their employees contribute for their own retirement. It took much of the financial pressure off them to provide a retirement benefit and transferred it to their employees. In fact, during the 30 years from 1979 to 2009, the Employee Benefit Research Institute estimates that the percentage of private sector workers covered by traditional defined benefit plans has dropped from 62% to 7% of total. Meanwhile, the percentage of workers covered by a defined contribution plan, such as a 401k, has increased from 16% to 67% during that same time frame. It's only logical for the owners of companies to want a less risky option for their company. Yet many of these 401k plan sponsors fail to adequately take into consideration the risks associated with implementing a 401k for their company. While much of the financial risk has been passed on to the employees, the plan sponsor does carry some risk as well. Let's first talk about the risks the employees face. Employees, or the participants in the 401k, have two major risks. Number one, they may underestimate the size of the personal savings pot they will need to retire the way they want. If they don't stock enough away, they may fall short come retirement time. Number two, they may also overestimate the investment returns they will achieve. This has become a much harsher reality in light of the 2008 financial crisis, when many participants saw their 401k accounts go backwards in a hurry, causing many to have to reevaluate their retirement goals. And guess what? This is where the plan sponsor may unknowingly carry risk. As a plan sponsor, the Department of Labor has laid out some specific criteria that you'll need to follow in order to help guide the decisions your employees make with their 401k. Believe it or not, you may be carrying more risk and liability than you think. You see, when you adopt a 401k plan, you assume some responsibilities. You'll have to begin filing a Form 5500 with your tax return. It's important that you remain in compliance when filing this important tax document. You'll have to stay up to date on new laws, such as the Pension Protection Act, as well as making sure you adhere to the ERISA regulations rules set forth by the Department of Labor. For example, Rule 404C lays out specific action steps for you to take in order to reduce personal liability. Other rules, such as 408B2 and 404A, incorporate fee disclosure requirements. These requirements have two very important components. The first is service provider disclosures of fees to plan sponsors. The second is plan sponsor disclosure to plan participants. Failure to comply with these rules may result in serious penalties and/or personal liability to you as the plan sponsor. Another important item to consider is whether to outsource some of your fiduciary duties. Think of it like this. You have a group of employees who are suddenly unhappy with what has been happening in their 401k plan. If you, the sponsor of the plan, failed to handle your plan properly, you may be vulnerable to an employee lawsuit. Hiring prudent experts to help you with some of your fiduciary functions may help. While you can't entirely remove all liability, outsourcing some of your fiduciary functions to what is known as an ERISA 338 fiduciary may help shield some of your fiduciary responsibilities off of you. So, what are some other steps to reduce the risk that you face as a plan sponsor? Number 1, benchmark your plan. We advise you to have an independent third party do this for you. It will compare the fees associated with your plan against the fees with other plans of similar scope and size. It's recommended to do this annually. Number 2, hire experts to help. ERISA laws require you, as a plan sponsor, to handle your 401k in a manner a prudent expert would. And if you're not qualified as a prudent expert, you are required to seek help. This may come from a 338 fiduciary investment advisor, TPA record keeper, law firm, actuary. Number 3, understand your plan and investment policy statement. Surprisingly enough, many plan sponsors have not taken the time to understand their plan. Even more surprising, many plans don't have an investment policy statement. This is something every plan ought to consider. So, is the Department of Labor serious? And if so, just how serious are they? Here are some actual press headlines from 2011. Please note, these were small companies, not Fortune 500 size companies. At the end of the day, you simply want your 401k plan to provide a meaningful benefit to your employees and to serve as a selling point for potential employees. But staying ahead of the regulatory environment can be a full-time job. You'll need to stay on top of fees, the quality of investments offered, transparency of the plan, and important educational requirements for your participants. Let's face it, change is upon us. We invite you to take action today.